Wolves have not been the same team since Nuno left the club in 2021. In fact, all the club has seen since is more mediocrity than the dating scene in San Francisco. But this season has been very different. For all the wrong reasons. Before we go any further though, quick updates on the Italy video essay. Believe it or not, yes, it does exist, and it will come out soon. Last week I put together a good amount of the video, like most of the graphics are done, and really all I gotta do now is just put in the music. This week though, I have to dedicate to the normal uploads, the ones that'll be out this week. Again, I am so sorry for the wait, it has just been a nightmare to juggle the normal uploads with this. This is why I'm looking into getting multiple editors. Anyways. Back in 2023, manager Julen Lopetegui left the club just 6 days before the new season, citing financial constraints. This put Wolves in a really bad spot considering they had just sold crucial players like Matheus Nunes and longtime vet Ruben Neves. Nonetheless though, last-minute replacement Gary O'Neill was able to make something out of this mess and led the club to a 14th place finish that included some really impressive results like a 2-1 triumph over Man City. For his impressive work, Wolves rewarded O'Neill with a 4-year contract going into 2024-25. Unfortunately, the manager could not replicate the same successes, lost the dressing room, and then was sacked after just 16 games, with the team sitting 19th in the league. In his place came Vitor Pereira, who was able to inspire the team and drag them out of danger, reaching as high as 13th at one point. Seeing this, club owner Jeff Shi was so impressed and convinced Pereira was the man for the long term that he gave the manager more influence over transfers and recruiting, despite the fact that he had not even managed a full season with Wolves yet. Are we sure about this, Mr. Shi? Now, on the surface, you could make the argument that this decision made sense. Pereira's signings in January played a key role in Wolves' survival, and his 6-game win streak was a big reason why the club survived in the first place. The thing about that win streak, though, is that the toughest opponent in that stretch was West Ham. 3 of their opponents would eventually be relegated, while the other 2 were Spurs during an injury crisis, and Manchester United. Also, prior to this job, VP's longest tenure in the last decade was with a team in Shanghai. Like, are we sure about this, Mr. Shi? Jeff, your team also just lost multiple important players that help you survive, including your top scorer Matheus Cunha. Are we positive about this decision, Mr. Shi? Not to mention, because of your decision, the club's sporting director Matt Hobbs has now moved on because there was pretty much no need for him anymore. You know, the guy who was able to make the most out of Wolves' transfer business despite the many financial constraints. Are you certain about this, Mr. Shi? Now convinced his philosophy was the only way forward, Pereira was blinded by the naivety that comes with this much trust for absolutely no reason and opted out of any potential domestic signings. Instead, targets were based entirely on his vision of a strong and athletic team. Thing is though, the club had non-existent execution to make any of these signings happen, which makes sense considering the new sporting director was Pereira's side piece. For weeks, Wolves were chasing players like a man with no self-respect for themselves. And because this club didn't bother to come up with any alternative options during preparations for the summer window, they were just frantically organizing last-minute negotiations with brand new targets who weren't even considered a third choice. The result? 100 million spent on 6 players with very little experience that the club didn't even really want in the first place. I don't like claiming I can do people's jobs better than they can, but not even my ADHD impulsiveness would pull this shit. Vitor Pereira's Wolves started their 2025-26 Premier League campaign by being brutalized in front of their own fans by Man City. And it only got worse from there as they lost their next 3 straight games with the attack looking absolutely abysmal. But here was an opportunity to pick themselves back up for his newly promoted Leeds at home. And Wolves started brilliantly with one of their new signings, Ladislav Krejci, opening the score just 8 minutes in. And then they conceded 3 unanswered in the same half. This was Wolves' 5th straight loss to start the season, by the way, which, to be fair, is quite impressive considering only 4 other Premier League teams have ever managed this feat. A tough break, but in the following week, Wolves didn't let the disastrous result faze them, and they were just within seconds of escaping with their first win of the season. They then followed that up by opening the score early on again versus Brighton. Then, later in the 55th minute, Wolves continue some rare rhythm and finally get their number 1.
By the keeper, great header!
I mean, draw number 2 isn't bad either, I guess. And hey, 2 straight draws. Even if a little, that's still a boost in morale that can turn into momentum.
Not far away. Oh, it's going to be an own goal!
Yeah, this team's a lost cause. After losing 2-0 to an overachieving Sunderland side, Wolves then lost at home versus another newly promoted team in the last minute of the game. They then followed that up with 2 straight 3-0 losses to create another 4-game losing streak. We are 11 games into the season. And just like that, the manager the owner was so keen on giving the keys to the club to a few months ago is sacked. Already, that is so embarrassing for the club, but it somehow gets even worse. Because Vitor Pereira actually signed a 3-year deal in September after the club had just lost its 3rd straight game to start the season.
Ain't you had enough punishment for one day?
Now going into the international break, Wolves sit bottom of the table with 2 points, having still not won a single league match. That means, amongst the top 5 leagues in Europe currently, the only other teams who have not won a game so far are Hellas Verona and Fiorentina. That's right, a leaning tower in Italy has won a game before Wolves this season. Not to mention, Wolves currently have the worst attack and defense in the Premier League right now. No one could have seen that coming. So, what went wrong here? Well, we already addressed at least the main cause of this. But because the majority of Wolves' summer signings were so last minute, it gave Pereira pretty much no time to create any kind of chemistry throughout the team before the start of the season. But chemistry can be built throughout a season though, right? Yes, but remember that questionable CV we were talking about earlier? Well, the way Pereira's approached his tactics this season have been just as volatile, if not more than his track record. In Wolves' first 10 games, he's made a league-high 31 changes to his starting lineup. And if that wasn't bad enough, Pereira switched the formation multiple times already. Someone call a Serie A side that barely has enough cash to survive past 2027. We have found their new overlord. This little consistency, though, is the #1 recipe to things turning into a complete disaster very quickly. Because if your players are constantly having to change, they'll be just like me when I enter a brand new setting, confused and telling themselves they want to leave as soon as possible. And when your players have lost track of what is working and what isn't because you keep throwing new things at them every 3 seconds, individual and collective confidence is lost. And not only are those attributes crucial, they are very difficult to get back.
Brownie batter, that shit look good.
That's my favorite.
That's your favorite? Cookie butter lava. What does that even mean?
That's my favorite.
Whatever, we'll move on. I mean, he's just a kid, right?
That's my favorite.
Okay, you can only have one fucking favorite.
So, what does the future hold for this team? Actually, better question, is there a future for this team? I think it really goes to show how bad the situation is when during the process to find Pereira's replacement, the club interviewed Gary O'Neill. I get it, Wolves, I missed the last girl I was seeing a lot, but come on. But that's just how it is throughout the entire club. There's just no plan for anything. I mean, look at Wolves since Nuno left. This is the 3rd time in the last 5 seasons where the team is close to relegation to start the season. And all they do from there is just find someone to fix the situation, rinse, repeat. If someone manages to save them from this current situation, it'll be a damn miracle. But whether it happens or not, this isn't sustainable. Not to mention, Wolves' financial constraints have become more and more evident, and it doesn't help that the club's structure is a complete mess. I genuinely look at this club as one that could be sitting in League One in a few years if they don't survive this season. It is genuinely that bad. But what do you guys think? Will Wolves under new manager Rob Edwards make the great escape happen, or will they fall to the championship? And also, to any Wolves fans watching this video right now, I hope everything's okay. Of course, though, a massive shout out to all our members, including Janos Balas, German Sayu 7, Jeremiah Owusu Ajimang, Brazilian Fury, Django, Anazir Makalongkong, Alex Rod, Kentra Gantra, St. Terrence, Sylvia Citrus, Rasher Enthusiast, Cheesebait, Winder Gel, Finn Likes Rugby More, Davox, The Portergeyser, Wise Orange, Polar Protus, Von Fan, Lucien Von Croix, A Ghostly Owl, Coney Wolves, Lickstab, Mutanai, Apollo, Congo Jazz 1, Thrilling 80T13, Los Milos, La James Braun, Vecino, Napside, Money Cash Hose, Quantavious Pork, Lilia Lover, Stewed Monk, Red Yellow, Kevin Mojica, Fuxi, MXN, Harry Maguire's Left Toenail, Flaquito, Kev C, Dominic Griffin, Kyler Krez, Mohammed Altanib, Nish, Patrick Barley, Rashford God 5, Raspberry Ale, and Unbroken Persona. If you'd like to become a member on the channel, there'll be a link down below and up in the annotations. You can follow me on Twitter if you like, follow my Instagram if you want. I will mention any kind of activity on the Twitch once the Italian video essay is done. So until then, I'll see you guys.